The message appeared without warning, like a flash of light in the corner of consciousness, an interruption so sudden and so sharp that it made the pulse quicken involuntarily. God says, "Your miracle has arrived. Receive in 15 minutes. Ignore this and lose all." The words were stark, authoritative, and yet intimate, as if they were meant for one person alone in the vastness of a crowded world. They were not accompanied by fanfare, no audible trumpet, no visual spectacle beyond the plain, unwavering clarity of the declaration itself. It was a message that seemed to slice through all layers of mundane life, bypassing the ordinary clutter of distractions, notifications, and obligations to lodge itself directly in the mind, demanding attention. There was no hesitation, no ambiguity, only the immediacy of a choice that had to be made. The first reaction was disbelief, as disbelief always is when confronted with the extraordinary masquerading as the everyday. Thoughts collided in rapid succession. What if it was a trick, a glitch in perception, a hallucination born of fatigue or stress? What if the message was meant for someone else, yet somehow my consciousness had intercepted it? Rationality, that ever-present companion in the quiet moments of ordinary life, urged caution. It whispered that miracles, if they existed at all, were not the kind of things that could be delivered via a sudden notification or a random thought. Yet alongside the rationality there was something else, a deep, unexplainable resonance, a vibration of possibility that filled the spaces between doubts. The very tone of the words seemed designed to pierce the ordinary defenses, to awaken an instinctual understanding that this was a threshold moment. Time began to stretch and contract simultaneously. 15 minutes, a span both painfully short and endlessly expansive. Each second ticked with a heightened sense of anticipation. One's mind, ordinarily accustomed to the flow of hours and the steady pulse of life's routines, now measured moments as though they were precious, fragile, suspended in a delicate balance between receiving and losing. To ignore such a message seemed unthinkable, yet to act without clarity felt equally perilous. The stakes were immense, though no tangible risk could be measured, no chart, no calculation could fully capture the weight of what lay in waiting. In that space, imagination took on a life of its own. What form could a miracle take? Could it be material, a sudden influx of wealth, health, opportunity? Could it be relational, a reconciliation, a union long desired, or the arrival of someone whose presence would change everything? Or was it something entirely beyond comprehension, a transformation of self, an awakening to new levels of perception, insight, and understanding? Each possibility danced in the mind with a tantalizing allure, carrying with it both hope and terror, for miracles, by their nature, are unpredictable. They are not governed by human logic and therefore defy certainty. And yet, alongside this flurry of anticipation, there was fear. Fear of failure, fear of misinterpretation, fear of missing the moment and losing forever what might have been granted. The warning in the message was absolute in its consequence: ignore and lose all. There was no room for negotiation, no margin for error. This created a tension within the self, a confrontation with one's own hesitation, one's own limitations in decisiveness and faith. How often, in the quiet spaces of life, do we hesitate when opportunity presents itself, only to look back later with regret at what might have been? The message was a mirror held up to that pattern, reflecting the inner conflicts, the indecisions, and the latent courage required to step forward without guarantee. In those 15 minutes, the mind becomes a theater, a place where every thought, every impulse, every heartbeat is magnified. Memories surface unbidden, past moments of triumph, of missed chances, of unexpected blessings, of failures that seemed insurmountable but were later revealed to be transformative. It is as though time itself begins to layer upon itself, creating a dense tapestry of experience, each thread contributing to the tension and the expectation of what is about to unfold. One wonders whether miracles are given only to the prepared, or whether preparation itself is rendered irrelevant in the face of divine timing. The mind searches for precedent, for analogy, for some clue from history, scripture, or personal experience that might illuminate the nature of the imminent gift. Yet each search proves inadequate, for a miracle is, by definition, singular, outside the ordinary bounds of expectation. Attention sharpens in ways that are simultaneously exhilarating and exhausting. Ordinary sounds, smells, textures acquire a heightened presence. The creak of a floorboard, the distant hum of traffic, the subtle scent of air moving through an open window. Each of these sensations seems to pulse with potential meaning, as though the universe has conspired to make every detail of the moment significant. Even the body responds, the quickening of the pulse, the tension in muscles, the shallow breath, the sudden clarity of sight. One becomes acutely aware of the self as a vessel poised to receive, to engage with forces far larger than comprehension alone. Doubt persists, a shadow companion, testing the resolve of faith. What does it mean to receive a miracle? Does it require an act, a gesture, a declaration of acceptance, or is the reception passive, a matter of awareness alone? And if action is required, how can one be certain that the action is correct, that it aligns with the intended purpose of the gift? These questions swirl in a maelstrom of thought, yet beneath them lies a deeper instinct, the knowledge that hesitation could be fatal to opportunity, that the moment of reception is fleeting, fragile, and irretrievably bound to its own timing. One begins to reflect on the nature of miracles themselves, the delicate interplay between human readiness and divine initiative. Miracles, one realizes, are not simply gifts, they are interactions, conversations between the cosmos and the self, between intention and openness, between fear and courage. They expose the limitations of control, the illusions of certainty, and the extraordinary potential embedded within the ordinary. Each miracle carries a duality. It is both a revelation and a challenge, an affirmation of grace and a test of trust. As the seconds continue to count down, there is a profound awareness of life's impermanence. Each passing moment feels charged with significance, a reminder that existence itself is composed of fleeting opportunities, intersections of chance and choice that shape the trajectory of a lifetime. The message, though succinct, resonates with the weight of eternity, compressing into a single directive the totality of human longing, fear, and hope. It is an invitation to transcend inertia, to step boldly into the unknown, to claim a possibility that is at once terrifying and exhilarating. Thoughts drift to the potential outcomes of inaction. Ignoring the message would mean surrendering to doubt, to the habitual postponement of faith, to the patterns of indecision that have marked countless previous encounters with chance and opportunity. The phrase, "lose all," carries with it an ineffable weight, not necessarily a loss of material goods, but the loss of a unique alignment, a chance that, once missed, cannot be reclaimed. The mind recoils from this loss even as it struggles to grasp what precisely is at stake, for the human understanding is limited in its ability to quantify the value of a miracle until it is experienced. And yet, within this tension, there is a spark of courage. The spark that has carried individuals through history to acts of bravery, creativity, and discovery. It is the spark that recognizes that some moments demand surrender, trust, and faith beyond comprehension. It is the spark that whispers that miracles, while unpredictable, are the natural language of possibility and transformation. To receive is to step into that language, to become a participant in a story larger than oneself, to embrace uncertainty as the medium through which the extraordinary manifests. The clock continues its inexorable advance. Minutes dissolve into seconds, and seconds stretch into eternity. The mind, body, and spirit converge in heightened awareness, a liminal state where past and future merge, and all that exists is the present, charged with potential. Each choice, each hesitation, each act of faith becomes magnified. There is a sudden clarity that preparation is not found in logic alone, but in the cultivation of openness, receptivity, and courage. In the final moments, decision crystallizes. It is neither rash nor timid, it is decisive in its simplicity. The act of receiving becomes a statement of alignment, a declaration of willingness to engage with the forces that lie beyond ordinary perception. It is a surrender to possibility, a recognition that life's extraordinary moments often arrive unannounced, and that the courage to act, to believe, to open oneself fully, is the gateway to transformation. And then, as the 15th minute approaches its completion, there is a stillness, a silence pregnant with expectation. The self is poised, attentive, aware in every fiber of being, ready to embrace what is offered. The miracle, whatever its form, is at the threshold, and the choice to receive or ignore is the final act of faith, the culminating gesture in a delicate interplay between human agency and divine orchestration. In that stillness, time seemed simultaneously suspended and accelerated, as though the universe itself held its breath, waiting for a single choice to unfold. Each passing heartbeat became a drum of significance, echoing in the quiet chambers of the mind, each thump a reminder that life itself is a delicate rhythm of opportunities and decisions. One becomes acutely aware of how fleeting moments are, how easily the extraordinary can slip past unnoticed, leaving only the residue of regret and wonder. The miracle, though undefined, felt like a living presence, a vibration in the air, a subtle movement that brushed against consciousness, waiting to be named, claimed, and understood. The mind begins to wander through the possibilities, a river of thought branching endlessly into tributaries of fear, hope, imagination, and memory. Each possibility conjures its own emotional landscape, the joy of relief, the shock of unexpected fortune, the warmth of reconciliation, the awe of insight that transcends ordinary understanding. But alongside joy is the shadow of doubt, the gnawing worry that inaction, hesitation, or misinterpretation could lead to irrevocable loss. This tension between anticipation and fear is the crucible in which courage is forged. The soul, momentarily stripped of routine distractions, confronts itself fully, acknowledging both its fragility and its capacity for bold, decisive faith. Images flicker in the mind's eye, a door slowly opening to reveal a light so bright it cannot be fully comprehended, yet is inviting in its intensity, hands reaching forward to grasp something intangible yet undeniable, an unseen force moving through the world to orchestrate circumstances in ways the conscious mind cannot yet perceive. The imagination, freed from the mundane constraints of daily life, begins to perceive the miracle not just as a single event but as a ripple in the vast ocean of existence, a convergence of countless factors, some human, some divine, coalescing in perfect timing. Reflection deepens. One considers the countless times in life when similar moments may have occurred unnoticed, opportunities lost in the fog of routine, unheeded whispers of intuition, subtle urgings dismissed as coincidence. Each memory carries the lesson of attentiveness, of receptivity, of the necessity of courage. There is a growing awareness that miracles do not arrive on a schedule dictated by the ordinary world. They demand readiness, a state of openness, a willingness to engage with forces beyond the habitual perception of time and space. As the countdown continues, the body reacts with a mixture of tension and alertness. Muscles tighten, nerves hum, the breath becomes shallow and measured. It is as though the self is a finely tuned instrument, vibrating in resonance with the potential that hovers at the threshold. There is a sensation of unity, a convergence of mind, body, and spirit, each attuned to the singular purpose of receiving. Ordinary distractions, emails, messages, chores, trivial anxieties, fade into irrelevance, leaving only the essential question: will the miracle be received, or will it be lost to hesitation? In the mind, philosophical questions arise. What is the nature of divine timing? How does one recognize the exact moment of reception? And how does one act without knowing the full consequences of the gift? Human experience is shaped by cause and effect, by observation, by the predictable flow of events, yet a miracle defies such linear understanding. It is a breach of expectation, a rupture in ordinary causality that invites awe, humility, and faith. To receive a miracle is to acknowledge one's own limitations, to accept that not all things can be controlled, and to trust that what arrives is aligned with a purpose beyond immediate comprehension. Simultaneously, there is an emotional surge, a mixture of hope and trepidation that pulses with intensity. One recalls stories of miraculous interventions throughout history, accounts of individuals suddenly saved, healed, or transformed in ways that defied understanding. The mind traces the contours of these narratives, seeking patterns, seeking reassurance that miracles are not merely myth or fantasy. Yet even without certainty, there is a recognition that faith itself is the medium through which miracles enter experience. The act of belief, of willingness, of readiness, opens a channel for the extraordinary to manifest in tangible form. Thoughts drift to the consequences of ignoring the message. The phrase, "lose all," resonates like an echo, reverberating through memory, imagination, and intuition alike. What could all encompass? Wealth, health, relationships, opportunity, insight, spiritual awakening? The word carries a totality that is both terrifying and sobering, a stark reminder that moments of grace are finite and irreplaceable. Hesitation, once comfortable in the familiar routines of life, becomes a dangerous luxury. The mind wrestles with indecision, weighing fear against faith, inertia against action, doubt against hope. In this heightened state, one begins to perceive subtleties in the environment that previously went unnoticed. The pattern of light across a wall, the rustle of leaves, the faint hum of distant traffic, all acquire a significance beyond their ordinary meaning. It is as though the universe itself conspires to alert, to guide, to prepare for the reception of what is imminent. Attention becomes a fine-tuned instrument, capable of perceiving nuances, patterns, and opportunities that ordinary consciousness might overlook. The very act of awareness becomes an essential component of readiness, an essential precondition for the miracle to manifest fully. Reflection expands to consider the broader implications of receiving a miracle. How does one integrate such an event into life? How does it reshape priorities, beliefs, and relationships? A miracle, once received, cannot be contained in isolation. Its presence demands acknowledgement, engagement, and integration. The individual becomes a conduit for transformation, not only within their own existence but in the ripple effects that extend outward into the lives of others. In this sense, the act of receiving a miracle is also an ethical and spiritual commitment, a recognition that the extraordinary carries responsibility as well as blessing. In the mind, stories emerge, narratives of courage, resilience, and faith that parallel the present moment. One imagines ancestors, mentors, and figures from history who faced threshold moments and chose to act despite fear. The tapestry of human experience unfolds, revealing the patterns of choice and consequence, illustrating that the act of reception is both timeless and immediate. One begins to sense a lineage of courage, a continuity of human willingness to embrace the unknown in the hope of transformation. This awareness strengthens resolve, creating a sense of solidarity with those who have stood at similar junctures throughout history. The clock ticks relentlessly, each second bringing the individual closer to the moment of potential reception. There is no room for distraction, no comfort in indecision. The miracle, undefined yet palpably present, demands a response. The mind becomes both intensely focused and expansively aware, a paradoxical state in which clarity and openness coexist. In this liminal space, one recognizes the essential truth: miracles are not merely gifts to be received passively, they require participation, engagement, and trust. They are invitations to step beyond ordinary perception, to move with courage into the realm of the extraordinary. And as the 15th minute nears its completion, a profound stillness settles over the self. The turbulence of doubt, the rush of imagination, the intensity of anticipation, all converge into a single, quiet point of presence. The body relaxes slightly, the breath steadies, and the mind achieves a crystalline focus. In this state, the threshold is clear, the miracle is at hand, the choice is unavoidable, and the act of reception is imminent. There is a subtle, almost imperceptible shift, a gentle unfolding in the consciousness that signals readiness, a resonance that aligns with the promise conveyed in the initial message.